Good afternoon, and I welcome all of you back to something that I've always kind of wanted to say and something I've always wanted to do because my dad spent, while he was learning divinity when he was at college, he had a lot of time to study American history as well. And I bring this up, brief as it may seem, but because I also want to actually know quite a lot about US politics myself, and there's quite a lot of things about the world that I really want to know and feel like now's the sort of time to just get on with it in case things might be a bit too late. I even got this book out about a couple of months ago. Well, it was actually last month. It's described as democracy in America, and it covers. There's a lot of things it covers, like from the intelligentsia of the working class, the foundation of unions, and things like general ideas about administration in the United States, how the states of the union differ among themselves by their systems of administration, life of the township less active and less complete as one descends toward the south, the power of the magistrate that becomes greater, that of the elector, smaller administration passes from the township of the county, states of New York, Iowa, Pennsylvania, administrative principles applicable to all union, election of public officials or immovability from their offices, absence of hierarchy, introduction of judicial means into administration. So it covers like a whole range of volumes, and there's a lot of things that, again, it would need extensive years of studying and research to, like, from when Columbus first sailed the Atlantic to the Civil War to the election of people like Barack Obama to the very present day. Just in terms of the change of status and how democracy has developed and the attitude towards development in contemporary America. You could almost call this American history XY, perhaps, or maybe X2, or something of that a similar vein. It was also written by Alexis de Tocqueville. I don't know if that's just like the publisher or that was just a sign off by the compendium of who put this together, because I imagine it would probably need several great men to put multiple volumes of this together. But for all intents and purposes, towards my American viewers, I feel like it should be worth mentioning just about who I am and what my relation is that I live in the northeastern city of Newcastle upon Tyne in England, and I'm very, very accustomed to the political situation here in the United Kingdom, as well as the fact that quite a lot of people have already made their points known, that they don't particularly like my opinions very much. But that's not really the reason why I still do this. I do this because, well, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right what goes on here in this country. I don't like the way that power gets abused. I don't like the fact that people are trying to convince other people to turn the other cheek and say that instead of trying to forgive, instead of trying to be a better person, continue exactly as you are. Consequences are not mandatory. Consequences are only wrong time, wrong place. And I personally don't think that's right in any society. We all have to own up to everything we do. It's got to be somebody's responsibility. And the onus is not on the innocent to make up for a person's mistakes. That's one of the great fundamentals of just the things I believe. I could probably do an entire video by myself about my 10 commandments, as they were, regarding politics. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is a very generalized introduction to US government and politics. Now, I'll just say for the record that what I do know about US politics, I kind of want to not talk about and rather just leave at the door, because despite what I've said before about the fact that sometimes it's absolutely fine to make a fool out of yourself because it means you can learn from your mistakes, but it seems as though this is the sort of thing that isn't particularly met with too many people nowadays. So I think the best thing to do is just get on with it, as they say. So, here we go.
Hi, I'm Craig. I'm not John Green, but I do have patches on my elbows so I seem smart. And this is Crash Course Government and Politics, a new show. Hooray! Why are fireworks legal or illegal? We might find out. Will we find out, Stan? Anyway, I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered where your tax dollars go, or why people complain about it so much? Or who pays for the highway that runs past your house? Or why you use the textbooks you use in science class? Or why you need a license to drive, or to hunt, or to fish, or to become a barber? I've always wanted to cut my own hair, back when I had it. Have you ever wondered why you have to be 21 years old to drink alcohol, but only 18 to vote, or gamble? Sometimes voting is a gamble. Actually, always. Do you get confused when you hear people on the news talk about Wall Street regulations, or Obamacare, or the national debt? Do you wonder why there are so few cell phone carriers and cable companies? How about why it's okay for student groups to lead prayers in schools, but not for the principal to do so? Have you ever wondered if there are any limits on when, where, and how the police can search your home, or your car, or your locker, or you, or your friend, or your grandma, or your grandma's friend? And do you know why you can stand outside of a government office with a sign and a bullhorn complaining about military action that you think is unfair, and the police can't stop you, but you can be fired from your job for doing the exact same thing? Have you ever been sued or fined? Ever wonder what the difference is between being sued or being fined? Have you ever wondered why our government does the things it does and doesn't do other things? Have you ever wondered what it would be like if we had no government at all? That would be anarchy. Can we play the Sex Pistols, Stan? That's probably illegal. Why is it illegal? And probably most important, have you ever thought about how you can change the things that seem unjust or unfair, or that you just don't like? Okay, so that was more than one question, and obviously there isn't a single answer to all of those questions, except that, in a way, there is. The study of government and politics. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and this whole series, Crash Course Government and Politics. Aptly titled. So let's start by doing what human beings do when confronted with complicated questions they can't answer. We'll answer a simpler one. In this case, what are government and politics? And why do I need to learn about them? Government is a set of rules and institutions people set up so that they can function together as a unified society. Sometimes we call this a state, or a nation, or a country, or Guam. And I'll use these terms somewhat interchangeably, except for Guam. That might be a little confusing. So, we study government in order to become better citizens. Studying government enables us to participate in an informed way. Anyone can participate, but doing so intelligently, that takes...
A quick question I want to ask is this.
A little confusing. So, we study government in order to become better citizens.
Does studying government make you a better citizen, or does it just make you know more about the government? Does studying government make you a better citizen because you know more about a certain subject, or does it just make you more well known, more knowledgeable about the status of the world? That's the first question I openly want to ask, is that does actually learning something make you a better person? In the words of the great Paul Weller, the more I see, the more I know, the less I understand.
Studying government enables us to participate in an informed way. Anyone can participate, but doing so intelligently, that takes a little effort, and that's why we need to learn about how our government works. Politics is a little different. Politics is a term we use to describe how power is distributed in a government. And in the US, it basically describes the decisions about who holds office and how individuals and groups make those decisions. Following politics is a lot like following sports in that there's a winner and a loser, and people spend a lot of time predicting who will win and analyzing why the winner won and the loser lost. The outcome of an election might affect your life more than the outcome of a sports game, though, unless you're gambling, which might be illegal. Government is really important. Everyone born in America is automatically a citizen, and many people choose to become citizens every year so that they can have a say in the government. The USA is a republic, which means that we elect representatives to govern us, and a democracy, which means that citizens are allowed to participate. This ability to participate is something we take for granted, but we shouldn't. History tells us that citizen participation is the...
That's actually the second question I want to say, and this is, well, it's less of a question, more of a thing I openly want to say, is that if you are born in the US, you are automatically dubbed as an American citizen. That you may have heard, actually, there's been a lot of talk that's been going on in the United Kingdom about certain rumours about wanting to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. A lot of this is dictated by the fact that our current Prime Minister wants to send at least 300 illegal migrants all the way to Rwanda, a nation that we started building houses to house migrants, illegal, as you could say. But the fact that the houses that are being built have largely been sold off, then there's the fact that the only feasible way to actually avoid problems crossing Euro airspace is to leave the Convention of Human Rights. And then, of course, there's also the implications of the fact that there's actually, at this point, no plane companies actually want to take any migrants off the ground, let alone board one plane. And so we're running into a situation where we want it, because the idea is that once you are in this, and there's a lot of complications about what is enshrined in British law versus what is enshrined in the Convention of Human Rights. So there's a lot of complicated levels of like going back and forth between if you are born in this country, does it make you a citizen? If you arrive in this country completely by the book and you have absolutely like all your paperwork in order, you have a visa, you have absolutely the right to be in this country, does that technically make you a citizen, or does it mean that you could be deported if you are accused of a major crime, or do you just serve time in prison? There's a lot of complicated back and forths between what counts as being a citizen, what counts as just living while working, and there's also a lot of complications about because a lot of people usually want to bring their families over to actually live in this country, so are they citizens as well? The right to citizenship is a very interesting topic, and it's something that some people would rather say that despite all evidence to the contrary, you're not actually a citizen because you are not this, that, and the other, which sounds like the sort of thing that could start a civil war, if you ask me. Well, from my understanding, not so much the English Civil War, but more of the American Civil War. But it's, again, I'll have to know these things in more detail if I'm going to make any comment about them.
The exception rather than the rule. But we're not going to look at history. Who has time? That's what history courses are for with that other guy. So one way people can participate in government is through voting. And many people will tell you that that's pretty much the only way we can participate in government or politics. But they're wrong. And I love pointing out when people are wrong. Let's go to the thought bubble. Sure, when you mark a ballot, you are participating in the political process. But there are so many other things you can do to be an active citizen. You can contact your representatives and tell them what you think about a political issue. People used to do this by writing letters or sending telegrams. But now they tend to call or send email. Although there's nothing like a good old-fashioned angry letter. People can work for campaigns or raise money or give money. They can display yard signs or bumper stickers. They can canvass likely voters, try to convince them to vote, or even drive them to the polls on election day. You participate in politics when you answer a public opinion poll, or when you write a letter to the editor or comment on an online article. You participate in politics when you blog or tumble or make a YouTube video or tweet. I guess even YouTube comments count. First, ever been to a march or a rally, or held a sign, or worn a t-shirt with a slogan on it, or discussed an upcoming election at the dinner table and tried to convince your parents who to vote for? You've participated in the political process. And if you've actually run for office, you've participated, even if you didn't win. And if you did win, congratulations! Now get back to work. You should already know this. But probably the most important thing you can do to participate in government and politics is both the easiest and the most challenging. Become more educated. Anyone can be a citizen, but to be a good citizen requires an understanding of how the government works and how we can participate. It requires knowledge and effort, and we have to do it because otherwise we end up being led rather than being leaders. We learn about politics because knowledge is our best defense against unscrupulous people who will use our ignorance to get us to do the things that they want rather than what we think should be done. Thanks.
I would say that's one of the most important things you could learn, is that actually that's the only way. Well, but then again, people would say, does that make you a good citizen? Knowing the fact that the people who are in charge, that they can see that people who are becoming more educated and are able to see the foibles and all the pros and cons about an agenda, a policy. It's the sort of thing that makes you wonder whether or not they may say, the PBS may say that you're a good citizen if you become more educated, but do the people in charge, they think you're a good citizen because they see you as knowing slightly more than probably what they were intended for, and that they can see things a little bit more clearly than others. And it's there's a great quote from Orwell I probably want to quote by the end of this, but it does concern the fact about the intelligentsia of any society. So here, let's get going.
Thanks, Thought Bubble. That was my first Thought Bubble narration. Hooray! You guys are fun. This is fun. So that's where we come in. Over the course of this series, we will be looking in depth at American government and politics. We'll be talking about stuff like the structure and function of the branches of government, the division of power between the national government and the state governments, what political parties are, what they do, and how they are different from interest groups. We'll examine the role the media plays in government and politics, how the legal system and the courts work, and how they protect civil rights and civil liberties. We'll look at political ideologies, what it means to say you're a liberal, or a conservative, or a libertarian, or a socialist, or an anarchist. Okay, we probably won't talk about anarchy because that's sort of the rejection of government. Again, Sex Pistols? Can't. It's a copyright issue. I'll take care of it. Anarchy! Woo! I've been known to do that from time to time. We'll try to understand the forces that are shaping American government and politics today, and we'll work towards becoming more involved in developing our knowledge so that we make our government more responsive and our politics more inclusive. By the end of the series, and actually before the end, you will understand how our government works and how you can make it work better for you and your community. Not only will you be able to answer most of the questions I started this episode with, but you will become, if you pay attention and think for yourself, a more engaged and active citizen. And you might have a beard, if you don't shave. Next week, we'll talk about Congress, how it works, and what it does when it does anything. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. And that's my first Crash Course episode. Are we out of poppers, Stan? Wait, I'll just throw them. Woo! Woo! Bang! Woo! Bang! Bang! Woo! Crash Course Government and Politics is produced in association with PBS Digital Studios. Support for Crash Course U.S. Government comes from Vocal. Vocal supports nonprofits that use technology and media to advance social equity. Learn more about their mission and initiatives at vocal.org. Crash Course was made by all these nice people. Thanks for watching. Can we call it Craig Course, Stan? No? Crash Course Craig? Mm-mm.
So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's basically where we're going to start, is that we want to start by going into the very beginning right now, and I will say, just for the record right now, I'm proud to say that, you know what, even though I studied history for 5 years when I was in high school, but I stopped learning about history 10 years ago. But the important details of this is that history has not just stopped just because I've stopped learning about it. History doesn't just stop just because people tell us that it's not important to look back in the past. And also about there's nothing wrong with trying to make yourself smarter. But I think it's also worth not so much like, I don't want to use the term airing out my dirty laundry on YouTube, but more just sort of getting my initial feelings, my initial responses immediately out there, and something that hopefully I've tried my best to convey over the last number of weeks. So I want to find out more and want to get to know even more. Not just because there's elections happening on both sides of the pond right now, but the fact that it might become incredibly important to know as much as I can. It's just a part of it. Now, as to what I was saying earlier, in Lisa Gahai's History of the Commune, there is a very interesting passage which famously describes the shootings that took place after the Commune had been suppressed. The authorities were shooting the ringleaders, and as they did not know who the ringleaders were, they were picking them out on the principle that those of better class would be the ringleaders. An officer, for example, would walk down a line of prisoners, picking out likely-looking types. One man was shot because he was wearing a watch, another because he had an intelligent face. Personally, I should not like to be shot for having an intelligent face, but I do agree that in almost any revolt, the leaders would tend to be the people who could pronounce their H's. And all we have to know now, ladies and gentlemen, is that going forward is that would I be able to know the difference? Will I be able to learn something that I was never expecting to know about American politics? Is there things that absolutely that the British should take a look at? A lot of people say that Britain is becoming more Americanized through its healthcare insurance. There's trickling things that appear to be brought into the United Kingdom is medical insurance, which is something that has been unheard of in this country for nearly 75 years. And what we're in trouble now, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that the more we know, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully we'll understand just as much. That's what I want to know, is to understand more than to actually, well, to know and understand. That's where I think I'm going to be, and hopefully I've tried my best to make this as concrete and make my opinions more structurally sound, just so we know where we are when we begin. So thank you very much for watching, and I thank as well PBS Studios as well, and Crash Course, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye bye for now.